Welcome to the Columbia Economic Development ReThink Business Podcast. Very excited. Today we have a special guest with us. Her name is Starlitt Miller, and she is an accountant and business consultant and the owner of Star Accounting and Business Solutions. And I was going to talk to her a little bit about her professional journey and her path into entrepreneurship. So good morning. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate you
joining us. And so I was kind of checking out your LinkedIn page a little bit this morning and reading about your background and how you have worked for some other companies and have now recently, I guess in the past year and a half, branched off on your own and started your own business. So I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about your background, what got you started kind of in the accounting and consulting field, and why you decided to start your own business after 7 years working in that field.
Sure, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's always nice when you get an opportunity to share your story. It's a journey, so I'm still in it. In the field of accounting, I initiated that field purely for the sake of numbers. When I knew it was time to get my degree, business was a no-brainer. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. My mom is still an entrepreneur, but was when I was a young child. So I was working within a small business from a very young age, so that birthed that within me. But when it was time to get my degree, I was trying to find the best industry that would convert to money at the end of the day, because I have to pay for college. I wasn't blessed to have a full ride scholarship or parents paying for schooling. So I checked BLS.gov to find out which industries paid the most, and accounting was it, and it aligned with my skill set.
It turns out philosophy degrees won't get you very far these days. So.
So it was really, that's what initiated accounting for me. And I've always been a working student. Since I graduated high school, I had a full-time job at a bank and went to school during the day. So it was really about the grind of making ends meet right away, as well as furthering my education. So that started the journey within accounting. Fast forward to now, and a few years back, I was working for a bank, and I was able to get a position as a management accountant at one of our banks here in Columbia, and it was a great position, a great opportunity, but it was in that role that I realized that that type of accounting work was not for me. I would show up to work with tons of work to do, GLs to balance and things to do, but I was bored out of my mind. So at the same time, I was also realizing and understanding myself as a professional, and then just as a woman, what made me tick. And I realized that I needed to be a part of something greater. I needed to have a seat at a table and make a greater impact. I'm a visionary just naturally. I love to be creative. That's something I've always known. I just didn't know how to channel it within my profession, which was in business. So I was able to shift from that position. I worked for a CPA firm, and that was when I got my experience working with small businesses. And it was there that it really allowed me to experience working with people and working within different industries, as well as exercising the skill sets that I've already obtained within accounting. But what it provided me was something that made me excited, was working with people in different industries. It was something different. I had to be creative. I was constantly relearning things and learning how it would apply to different people. And that's what I lacked in the other setting and environment. So starting my own company meant that I owned my own time. And that was important for me then. It is still important for me now. It just means something different when you are owning and operating your own company. You own your own time. So whether it's you're doing what you're supposed to or you're not doing what you're supposed to, it's still on you. But being a mom, as well as working and furthering my education, being there for her now is important, and owning my time means that I get a chance to be there for field trips or be there for her after school versus working 45, 60 hours a week outside of my home without her. And for me, that's a higher value for me personally. And I realized regardless to what I was going to do, I was going to work hard at it. I'd rather do it in a way that it makes sense for my lifestyle. And for me as a mom, that's extremely important. And I'm not going to wait until 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now to do what really makes sense for me. So that is why I decided to start my own company. And it started off by just trying to do bookkeeping and avoiding going to a 9 to 5. And I realized there's a need for the services that I provide, and I enjoy what I do. So naturally it turned into a business.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you a little bit about why you decided to start your own business, but I think you touched on some of those points already. But I mean, how was that for you to go from, it takes a big leap of faith to go from, working somewhere where it's structured, there's kind of that regular, getting paid every 2 weeks, to now you are really accountable for bringing it in and delivering, and then, in some cases even making sure that you are getting paid by the client when you're done with the work. So, I mean, how was that for you to kind of just emotionally just jump into that?
Sure. Well, I'm still in my first 12 months of operating 100% on my own, so I'm still figuring this out. I mean, the process of proposal, engagement, setting the stage for your clients, and making sure that you are paid for your time. And then shaking off the imposter syndrome of who am I to do this kind of thing as well. So it's something that I'm still learning to perfect as I grow something greater than myself, because the goal is not just to replace the salary for myself. The goal is to hire other people, set a culture for my organization that'll help do the same thing as done for me for other women or men or whomever. So that's really the greater purpose. It's not just about me, but making the shift, it's kind of hard to explain. It takes courage for sure, but I know my backup plan is a position. I'm overqualified for the bookkeeping work or things that I've done, and I know it's there. But I just got fed up with not being able to own my time. And personally, I've gone through some changes in my personal life, and I realized that now is the time to take control, and that's what I decided to do.
That's
and
awesome.
It was just a matter of recognizing that there's value there, and I provide value through the feedback from the clients I've serviced working for someone else, and it was just taking the jump. And as soon as I did, I gained support, so that was confirmation that I was headed in the right direction. So yeah.
And I noticed through looking at your website, so it's not just traditional accounting, bookkeeping services. Like, you are working with your clients, kind of looking at their business processes, identifying those areas, where they could be more efficient, where they can streamline things. So you're kind of looking at it from front to end and helping them streamline things, and get organized so that they can be more efficient and more productive and have better results as well. So it's very focused on their needs. What are some of the major problems your people are encountering, though? I mean, what do you kind of see from a general business perspective? Where are people missing the mark, and where can they be more productive at?
The average small business owner is still working in their business. So time is a huge problem. Having the time to work on your business is the biggest issue, and I'm experiencing it as well. I am all departments currently as a solopreneur, but really having the mindset of creating efficient systems and processes, preparing for your growth, typically is not the mindset of the entrepreneur. They're in business for what they're doing. They're servicing their client, and they're bringing in people to help service the client, but they're not working on building this machine of a business that will flow. So that is usually the biggest issue, and on top of that, they're not looking at their numbers. And often some people will see bookkeeping or accounting work as a means to your tax return, because the IRS will knock on the door every year without fail. But that shouldn't be the only reason why you're looking at your numbers, right? If we want to be reactive, sure, and we know we need to file our taxes, but what about your business? What's the 5-year plan? What is a 2-year plan? We understand the plan. How are we going to get there? The only way you're going to determine that is if you take a look at what's already happened. And if you're a brand new business, it's even more vital to set up those systems and be able to understand your numbers. So what I help to provide is that quantitative data through their bookkeeping, and then also looking at what's happening operationally. If you own a landscaping, plumbing type of business where you're servicing clients out in the field, and you have technicians that are going from one place to another across the Midlands, how are you optimizing their time and your time? If you're taking the call to dispatch these guys out into the field or gals out into the field to service your customers, we need to understand what's happening from point A all the way to point F. And for me, that naturally is just the way that my brain works. So it really excites me when I'm presented with a client who has no clue, because then that's a problem that I
You can
solve.
really identify those gaps.
Right, and then once we identify the gaps, what I love is to pair that with the technology that's already doing the job of streamlining it. So there's so many third-party applications that help to automate your communication with your clients, whether it's to send them a reminder about your appointment coming up, to send feedback initiation, or at least to check in, because I'm doing my job if I can help you as a business owner service your customer or client more efficiently. And yes, we want to do the job, but we also want to provide great service.
And so you even help them identify the technology that can help them with their specific industry, so that you know they get tied in through that, and they have automation and processes now. Yes,
well, I leverage technology for what it's there for, and there's so many options there. So my job is to research and find the key features that'll pair up with the pricing that make the most sense for the business owner. And this is service industry as well as other industries.
Yeah, and that's a good strategy. I think some people, you either love technology and you really dive into that stuff, or you're the person who's very technological averse, and you need someone like you to kind of come in and say, no, this thing can really be of use to you.
Yeah, and even internally. So there are a lot of CRMs that'll help to maintain your customers' information internally. And if you have a small team, you all need to be able to communicate efficiently about your client, your customer, and even create your internal workflows. So that's, again, we're all talking about time, optimizing your time, being more efficient. And my goal is to have the small business owner that's working in their business transfer to working on their business. And that happens when you create the systems in order to do that, and then focus on growing their company.
There seems to be kind of a resurgence of activity in the entrepreneurial community here in Columbia, of which you're a part of now. And you know, just a lot of energy from young, up-and-coming business owners such as yourself, who are getting more active and involved and engaged in the community. So, from your perspective, what do you think's kind of driving that interest and activity, and kind of how does it feel to be a part of that community here?
I think, and this might be nationwide, that the entrepreneurship is grown, and we've on a society level almost received permission that it's okay to take this route, and we're dealing with a different generation who's taking control in what they're doing. And thanks to social media and other platforms where we can be our own PR firm and market ourselves, we don't need permission from the news station to tell our story. It's really helped. But here in Columbia, I remember 2 years ago in 2016, I was a part of the Savvy Musician in Action's kind of startup boot camp session, and we sat in at City Hall and heard Mayor Benjamin speak about the vision that he has for our city, and really wanting this to be a place where the talent stays, there's innovation, and there's entrepreneurship growth. So I think not only are we pairing our generation with having permission and having the courage to just go ahead and do it, we've got the technology that's supporting us and giving us a voice where we can speak to other people, but locally we have the resources that are put in place, like the co-working space that I'm a part of, SoCo. And it's a huge help for me, because that environment is what I was looking for when I compared my corporate America experience to working at a cubicle, a nice big cubicle, but it was a cubicle nonetheless, not really working with people or tapped in and needing to wear my specific outfit just for the sake of uniform and performance. But when I go into SoCo and I can just be who I am, an artistic entrepreneur as well as an accountant, and it doesn't make a difference. What we're focused on is building something greater than ourselves and being creative, and just sitting around talking about how we can take all of our businesses or what we're doing to the next level. That, to me, for Columbia is vital. So having the resources to help cultivate this, and then pairing it with those that are going to be interested, because I mean, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I don't think that everyone needs to own their own business, and it's okay to be an entrepreneur.
I'm
and
one
build
of those
your company.
people. I would not
inside.
fare well in that environment.
And that's okay. It's just really figuring out. So all of my assessment for other people and for myself it started internally. I recognized that this is what I needed, and not to say that there's not a company that would value my skill sets and allow me to sit at the table. I decided to do it on my own. But for some people, they need that. But we can't go far. We can only go as far as the resources will allow us. And thankfully, Columbia is is on the track to provide those resources for entrepreneurs like ourselves, and even having events like today where we have here, where we're located, and there's resources coming together and saying, how can we help? So I'm glad to be a part of that for small business owners, to say, how can I help you? And when I reached out to our community partners and saying, well, what is the real need for small business owners here in Columbia? Now, my services are not stationary to a physical location. I will work, I've got clients in other states and I work remotely constantly, but I'm interested in serving the community that I'm a part of, because that's what I enjoy.
Yeah. And I think technology has certainly enabled the younger generation, you know, folks who have embraced it more, to the barriers to start your own business are lower than they used to be, and the ability to reach out to people and tap into your potential market or customers, or even just people who would be interested in hearing what you're doing, is greater than it used to be, because you've got apps and social media platforms, and websites are easier to make. People are doing them, they're WordPressing on their own, so the tools are there. But you still need those traditional things. You know, you're still going to want to have a solid business plan. You're still going to want to understand, you know, how are you doing your marketing? Who are you marketing to, and why? Are you getting to that target market? You know, having access to people like yourself who can consult and kind of give you that third-party neutral view and say, hey, have you considered this thing over here that could help? You know, some of the old ways are still good, but you know, the technology's definitely allowed people to kind of ramp up what they do and when they do it. And now they can, a lot of people are doing it from home or from the co-working spaces, so it's pretty awesome to see that. Now, just this past month, you got the opportunity to do a business pitch to Michael Bloomberg and a group of venture capitalists that he brought in to take a tour around the city of Columbia. So how was that? Like, what was that? You nervous at all? Like, what was that experience like?
So, I mean, first I want to say it was a great honor to have the experience. When I got the invitation to be in the room or be in the space when he was coming out, that was all really
He's
that
just
I needed.
A billionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no pressure. The dude's just got more money than all of us combined. So
So, but when I got asked to share my story in 2 minutes, by the way, share my unique story and give some information about the business, that's not hard at all.
No. Did you sleep at all the night before?
What?
Like,
The thing
rehearsing?
I only had that night before to prepare for it. And this is something that most people don't know. I actually came off of the stage performing. I had a dance performance right before I met with Michael Bloomberg. So not to say that I'm not juggling a whole lot, but I am. But the experience itself, once it was actually happening, was great. I mean, he is very personable. He seemed like a really nice guy. What was more intimidating was the venture capitalist. And I was really impressed at the diversity that stepped off of that bus. I mean, there were men, women from all backgrounds.
That's true.
And it was really nice to see. And what kind of helped me to relax was that I knew I wasn't pitching for anything. I wasn't looking for anything in return besides the experience and to meet them and to share my story. So it was a little easier for me because of that. But I was more nervous about the venture capitalists than anything, because they listen to the pitch, they understand business, they can compute things so quickly when it comes to your model, how you scale, what you're doing, what you're not doing. So once it was happening and it was done, it was nice because I got two questions from Michael Bloomberg and some advice, and then the venture capitalist Patrick, who gave me some advice, actually connected with him, and he's followed up with me and connected me
that's
to
really cool.
a EVP at Salesforce in California. So that might be a great connection, and he's given me some advice. So again, I didn't go there for a pitch or looking for anyone's money, but it was a great experience to have to, even within a quick turnaround, share my story. And then I had to ask myself, well, what is my unique story? Because often we go through our lives and things happen and we persevere through things and we're juggling so much and we don't think it's that impressive until you share your story with someone and like, wow, you're going through all of that plus you're building a business. So I had to really sit down and I wrote out 3 or 4 pages of notes to prepare my 2-minute.
That's what it takes though. You got to start big and really distill it down to the high value stuff. So
yes, and I was more excited to hear the stories of the other entrepreneurs who spoke, the other 3. So it was just a great experience, and I was honored to be there. So I didn't really go there expecting too much besides the experience and being present. So it was great.
It was, even from my perspective, it was definitely cool to just participate in and be involved in. So, you know, not every day you get that, you know, something like that happens in your hometown. So you talked a little bit about your dance background, and I'm always really fascinated by people who are, you know, owning and operating their own business, but who also have that cultural or social aspect, you know, to their lives and what they bring to the table. And so you've got experience in dance and performing arts, and you even started your own performing arts program called I Am Art back in 2015. So tell us about that, just because I think that's cool and fascinating.
So the arts is a passion of mine. Naturally, I knew from a child that I was creative. My mom gave me the freedom to create things. So my room looked
an entrepreneur who's creative. There's no correlation whatsoever.
Right. So I Am Arts, the idea came out of an accounting class, actually. So I was...
That's interesting.
Yeah. The assignment was to come up with a fictitious business to develop the financial statements for. We had to write a one-page paper and the financial statements, of course. And writing is not my thing. I would clean the house, I'd do laundry, I would probably take the leaves off the roof before I have to sit down. And we're talking about a paper. I can write a mean email. And proposals are getting better too. But for me, writing wasn't something I was interested in. So I figured I need to do this, create this business in something that I'm interested in. So it wound up being a creative arts center, and I called it the Northeast Creative Arts. So the idea was for it to be a creative arts center offering dance, music, and visual art classes, in addition to having an event space for evening type of things. So in my mind's eye, that's what I saw. A brick and mortar offering classes, and then what made it really different from dance studios or a music program is that the goal was to intertwine the disciplines. So a child would get dance classes as their core, and then also have visual art classes or music classes. What that has morphed into is a company that develops creative arts programming, partnering with the organizations that are already here. So I partnered with the Art Museum 1 year. I have a partnership with Ideology where, and this is the program we're currently running, we pair technology and creative arts expression. We've done 2 years of a week-long summer camp. The first year, they taught their students how to code sound, so they created and produced music for our performance, as well as LED lighting for e-textile, so they put the lights on our shirts, and coded some of the robots to move in our performance. My role was to direct it. What I taught my students at the Art Museum, so we had dance class at the Art Museum, was contemporary technique, improvisational techniques, so learning how to move on the spot from your own body. And we also learned how to collaborate, so how to work with others for a common goal. And these are leadership skills that these students, 9 to 15, are learning how to work with each other and peers. And we worked 4 days to work up to a performance on the 5th day of the camp. So it's so rich.
They had to learn a lot in a little bit of time.
Yes, it's a full all-day summer camp, 8 o'clock to 5, full day.
Just like real adult life. We're going to give you this thing and we want it done yesterday, so go knock it out.
But believe it or not, they eat it up because as young children, they can learn so much that we give them credit for. So this year, what we focused on was something similar, but the technology students learned how to code images. So we made it really simple for them, and creating these programs was in collaboration with Ideology. So we came together December of last year. What's the theme? What's the goal for this current year? Their students learned how to code stick figures, pretty much like animation. So they had to make the stick figure move. And my students learned how to take the movement that they were seeing and pair it with their own movement. So by the end of our camp, we had moving figures that the middle schoolers coded. And what we were able to do was go in and speak and give them language to creative movement. So doing something like this and turning your head is a lot of lines of code that they had to learn and really understand how to fluidly put in place. I mean, these are people that are getting paid how much money to code animated figures on TV. So these are skill sets that they can take and move forward. And the greatest takeaway for me with this year's camp for the technology students was that they realized, and my job was to help them realize they can be creative without being creative. So the average tech person feels that they have no creative bone. They're technology based.
Writing lines of code after lines of code.
Right. Well, when I talked to one of the students, he showed me his little piece of animated figure doing very simple statotic movement. And then he showed me something he did when he had free time. And this two figures fighting, hitting each other, flipping, moving, so much movement around the screen. And I said, well, hey, what happened to our dancer? Why is the dancer standing in place, moving their hands up and down? Did you know that flipping, doing a split, turning is also movement, and it's dance is express? He's like, oh, okay. So he implemented that into his
put it all together.
Yes. So to me, that's the greater purpose. Yes, we had a performance, but really, I Am Art is about the process. And my goal with I Am Art is just to create these programs and connect with the dance studios, connect with the organizations that are teaching our students throughout the year the technique, and then give them the platform to express and see what they come up with. So it's really about creating the program that they can have a say in as well. And as of right now, I Am Art is a 1 week. The Dance and Collaboration is a 1 week program throughout just for the year, because that's what I can manage operating two businesses. But it's a passion project.
It's not a heavy lift, just doing both of these things over here and raising my girls. So.
But with what we have with that one program is so rich, it's too rich for me to just let go. So I'm okay with where it's at. It's manageable. It's a summer camp, and hopefully I can hire some folks to come in and really take ownership and love it just as much as I do, so that it'll bring on some more legs.
Well, I think what you're doing with both of your endeavors, both your business that you're running on the day-to-day and your performance arts, is like really good. And a lot of people have trouble just juggling the one job, much less doing that. So it's really awesome that you've got both of these things running, and it sounds like they're both moving in a really positive direction and growing too. So I hope over the next year we get to see more growth in both of those things, and you continue to take those to the next level. It sounds like they're both really awesome.
Thank you. And I'll be honest with you, I struggled with the identity of the two. So I felt like I had to hide one in certain settings and not another. So over the past year and a half, I've become more comfortable in wearing both hats and it being okay. I would show up in a business professional accounting setting, mention the arts, and like, oh, the arts, nonprofit, that's cute. But really taking ownership of both sides and finding the best way to marry my skills, so the love for the arts as well as my business sense and my accounting world, that owning my business seemed to be the perfect spot. So I appreciate being able to speak about both and it be okay.
Well, and even from the economic development perspective, what we see, companies want talent and education and jobs, and there's capital investment in those things, but they still look at cities and your cultural amenities and your quality of life. It's not just a one-sided equation anymore. People want to go to locations, where you can make a good living wage, but there are things to do in the evenings and on the weekends and places to take your family to. So you really kind of have to have that balance overall as well, as a city overall. So, but it's pretty cool that you found like a successful way to play in both spaces and still manage to make it work and keep your sanity at the same time. So it's pretty awesome. Hope to hear more great things from you over the next year on both of those fronts. But thanks a lot. It's great having you, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come in here and just talk with us and share about what you've got going on. So
thank you, Ryan. It's my pleasure.